I came home earlier than planned that Sunday. The regional board meeting in Raleigh had been canceled after one of the VPs tested positive for COVID, and the whole thing moved online. I could have stayed at the hotel, grabbed dinner, maybe knocked out some follow-up emails, but something tugged at me. This strange, restless energy I couldn't name, so I packed up and hit the road. It was just after 6:30 when I pulled into our driveway. The house looked the same as always. Brick exterior washed in soft evening light, the porch light already buzzing on. Peaceful. Familiar. Inside it was mostly dark. No clatter in the kitchen. No music drifting through the living room speakers like she usually had on during her weekend catch-up hours. I didn't call out to her, habit, I guess. Carrie always said she needed deep focus when working, especially when she was live or recording. I set my bag down gently, trying not to make too much noise, and headed down the hallway toward her office. The glow of her ring light spilled faintly from under the closed door, casting a thin sliver of artificial daylight against the hardwood floor. Then I heard her voice, light, rhythmic, professional, polished like she always was on camera. And honestly, you guys, you just have to laugh when people get sentimental about this stuff. She was saying, her tone bright and playful. A pause. "Oh, this?" she added with a laugh. "This little thing? My husband says it's a family heirloom. I mean, look at it. It honestly looks like it came out of a vending machine." More laughter. Laughter from her. Laughter from the chat. She twisted the ring on her finger, and I could almost picture it. That antique platinum piece. Oval cut, slightly scratched at the edges, once belonged to my grandmother. I proposed with it. Carrie had cried when I gave it to her. Or, she pretended to. She swore it was haunted, Carrie continued. Said it only brought trouble, but he kept it locked away until he met me. So either I broke the curse, or I'm just the latest victim. The chat exploded with laughing emojis and messages like, "Dead skull," and "Girl, not the cursed ring," loudly crying face. She smiled at the camera, soaking in the glow of her audience. I stood outside the door, my heart hammering so loudly I thought it might echo through the vents. I felt something in me crack, slow and quiet, like a hairline fracture on a windshield that spreads before you even realize it's broken. I pulled out my phone, opened her stream. There she was, framed perfectly by the LED halo light, seated in her sleek white chair, hair curled to perfection. Her office looked like something out of a high-end home decor magazine. Designer books stacked neatly on her floating shelves, a fake plant draped aesthetically to one side, a neon sign on the back wall that said, "Create." I stared at the screen for a few seconds before typing into the chat. "If it's from a vending machine, I'll take it back." Posted almost instantly, and just like that, she froze. The pause was small, maybe 2 seconds at most, but in live stream terms, it was an eternity. I saw her eyes dart off screen, reading the message. Her lips parted slightly. The smile started to collapse. Then she forced it back into place. "Oh," she said with that airy laugh. "Looks like my husband's in the chat. Don't worry, guys. He knows I'm just messing around. He's probably rolling his eyes at me right now, like always. Hi, babe." She gave the camera a little finger wave. Casual. Light-hearted. Then she kept talking, pivoted to a question about branding strategies like nothing had happened. But she never addressed the comment again. Never said my name. Never acknowledged the moment. I stood in the hallway for a full 5 minutes. Just listening. Trying to reconcile the woman I married with the one on the screen. She was so composed. So smooth. Like none of it mattered. Like the ring didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. I didn't open the office door. I didn't walk in and ask what the hell that was about. I just backed away, slowly, and stepped out the front door. The air outside was still warm from the day, but I felt cold anyway. I climbed into my truck, shut the door, and sat there in silence under the humming porch light, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from unraveling. This wasn't the first time she'd said something off on a stream. A few weeks ago, she joked about married life being just emotional support and taxes. It bothered me then, but I brushed it off. Everyone plays things up for the camera, right? But tonight, this was different. This wasn't a bit. This was contempt. Dismissal. A calculated decision to cheapen something real, something personal, for the sake of online applause. The worst part? The chat loved it. I refreshed the stream. The comment was buried now, drowned out by dozens more. The chat had moved on. But I hadn't. I sat there replaying the moment over and over again. The way her mouth twitched. The flicker of recognition in her eyes. The way she didn't stumble, didn't break character. That smile had come back fast. Too fast. It made me wonder. How many times had she rehearsed for moments like that? I reached into the glove compartment and pulled out the small velvet box I had brought home from the jeweler's earlier that week. It was meant to hold the matching necklace I designed using a small sapphire from the same heirloom collection. A surprise. A gift. Just because. I opened it, stared at the necklace in the pale glow of the dashboard lights. Then I shut it again and placed it gently back in the glove box. No point. Not anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Not even a little. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling while Carrie slept in the other room. Her office door had stayed shut for hours after the stream ended. I heard the occasional muffled voice, probably a call with her moderator, maybe her assistant. I didn't knock, didn't ask questions. By the time she finally emerged, I had already slipped into the guest room under the excuse of not wanting to disturb her sleep. She didn't ask why, didn't even comment, just gave me a quick, almost rehearsed, "Night, babe," and disappeared into our bedroom. I lay there with my eyes wide open, heart pounding, thoughts looping like a broken reel. And for the first time, I let myself admit it. This wasn't just about the ring. It was a pattern. A string of small things I had shoved to the side because I didn't want to seem jealous or insecure. Because I didn't want to be that husband, the one who questions every late night, every unexplained charge, every locked phone screen. But now all of it was flooding back with alarming clarity. There was that week back in April when she said she was flying to Nashville for a women's leadership summit. She came back with a tan. I asked how the conference was, and she waved it off, saying, honestly, it was more of a networking/retreat thing. The hotel receipt showed room service for two. She claimed it was her and a fellow brand rep. I believed her. There was the perfume. Not hers, someone else's. Something expensive and masculine. I remember noticing it on her blazer one night after she got home from a supposed last-minute dinner with the team. I joked about it. Making new friends? She laughed and said, guess someone at the office hugged me a little too hard. And then there were the wine glasses. 2 of them in the sink when I got home early from a trip to Charlotte. She said her friend Alyssa had come over, that they split a bottle of Pinot while brainstorming a new campaign. At the time, it made sense. Carrie was always networking, always pushing for some edge in her industry. I didn't want to be the guy who turned every little detail into an interrogation. But now, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd missed something, or ignored it, or didn't want to see it. I got up early and went into the kitchen. The silence in the house felt unnatural, heavy, like the walls knew something I didn't. Carrie had already left. Her car was gone from the driveway, which was unusual for a Monday. She usually worked from home until at least noon before heading to the studio downtown. I checked the kitchen table. No note, no text, just an empty coffee cup with lipstick on the rim and a spoon left out with traces of yogurt and chia seeds. I opened the banking app on my phone, something I hadn't done in weeks. Not because I was lazy, but because I trusted her. We'd always had joint accounts. Full transparency. That was the agreement. But this time I started scrolling. Slowly, carefully. $212, luxury rideshare service. Odd time, 10:43 p.m. $68, Italian bistro I didn't recognize. $328, boutique hotel, 2 weeks ago. Labeled, Team Strategy Retreat. $11. 79 coffee shop Carrie had never mentioned before, but the name rang a bell. I'd seen it once in her stories. I felt a pit forming in my stomach. What team retreat happens at a boutique hotel that doesn't show up on any of her content? Carrie documented everything. Her workouts, her lunches, her walks, her freaking bubble baths. But not this. Not the dinner. Not the hotel. Not the rideshare that picked her up past 10. I started digging deeper. Photos. Emails. Her social posts. I noticed that she had archived a bunch of Instagram stories from earlier in the year. Stories where she was supposedly traveling for work. But one video slipped through the cracks. Still saved in a highlight reel called Q1 Hustle. I watched it on mute. She was at a rooftop bar, holding a cocktail, city skyline glowing behind her. She panned the camera left, but stopped abruptly. Just for a flash, I saw a man's arm. Suit jacket. A wristwatch I didn't recognize. She quickly turned the camera back to herself. I hadn't thought much of it when I saw it in real time. But now, that wasn't just someone in the background. That was someone she didn't want me to see. I closed the app. My hands were trembling. A wave of nausea hit me so hard I had to lean against the counter. I wasn't just hurt. I was humiliated. I had been building our life brick by brick while she was out playing someone else in front of a camera. It was like living in a house you helped build, only to find out the foundation was fake. That night, I stayed in my truck again, parked on the edge of a field just outside town, where the cell signal was weak and the stars were visible. I needed space, quiet, something that didn't lie to me. I thought back to the beginning, to how we met. Carrie used to manage the front desk at my gym. I was just another guy clocking in 5 a.m. Workouts before heading to my sales job. We hit it off slow. She used to joke that I was the only man who'd ever noticed her protein shake addiction before noticing her curves. We'd sit at the smoothie bar and talk for hours after her shift. She used to wear baggy hoodies and zero makeup, and I thought she was the most grounded woman I'd ever met. She said she didn't care for the spotlight. I believed her, even when the follower count started to rise, even when the brand deals rolled in. Even when she hired a personal assistant and started using phrases like audience curation. I told myself I was proud, that I was lucky to love a woman so driven. Now I couldn't tell if she was real or if I'd fallen in love with a version of her that never actually existed. Back home, I showered, changed, and waited until she returned. She came in through the back door just after 9 p.m., holding a garment bag and chatting on her AirPods. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, muffled by a distracted, "Hey, babe." Shoot was great. Then she was upstairs, still on the call. I stood there in the kitchen, watching her climb the stairs like nothing was wrong. Like the ring meant nothing. Like I was nothing. And the worst part? I didn't even have proof. Not really. Just fragments. But they were starting to form a picture. And I didn't like what I was seeing. Sometimes the truth doesn't show up like a lightning strike. It creeps in quiet, deliberate, one ugly detail at a time. That's how it happened for me. I didn't set out looking to catch Carrie in anything. At least that's what I told myself. But after the ring comment on the stream, after the charges, the missing hours, the scents, the lies, I couldn't stop myself. I started noticing everything. And not just in the way she acted, but in the way I had stopped asking. Until someone else did. It was my brother, Matt. He works in internal audit for a national hotel chain. Nothing glamorous, just spreadsheets, receipts, billing reports. Numbers. But the numbers tell stories. That's what he always says. And this time, the story was mine. He called me on a Wednesday. I was in the middle of changing the oil in the garage, just trying to clear my head for an hour. My phone buzzed, and I almost ignored it. I saw Matt's name and answered. "Hey, I've got something weird," he said without any small talk. "You got a minute?" My hands were covered in grease, and my stomach dropped. Weird how? I was going through expense flags from our Atlanta region, and a name popped up more than once. Carrie's. I froze. My Carrie? Yeah. I wouldn't have thought anything of it, except it came up on a shared reservation with a guy named Jared Simmons. Do you know him? I leaned against the workbench. My vision felt fuzzy. Jared Simmons? He's listed as a business associate in the reservation notes, but they booked executive suites. Not separate rooms, one room, 2 guests. And they weren't on corporate rates. These were personal cards, but the profiles flagged because they're regulars. I felt something twist inside me. She told me those were strategy weekends, I muttered. Corporate retreats, hotel points, group events. Matt was quiet for a moment. Jason, I didn't want to dig without your permission, but if you want me to look deeper, I can. I paused, then said quietly, do it. An hour later, Matt emailed me a file. A zipped folder with PDFs, *TS, and a spreadsheet that tracked 7 different hotel stays. All in different cities. All weekends I remembered Carrie being off-grid for planning retreats or brand incubator events. All booked for 2. The receipts were detailed, itemized room service for 2, spa packages for couples, bottles of wine, breakfast in bed. One receipt even had a handwritten note on it from the concierge. Happy anniversary, Mr. and Mrs. Simmons. I opened the security cam still last. And that was the moment it all stopped being theoretical. There she was, Carrie, in a hotel lobby I'd never seen. She was holding Jared's hand. Not walking side by side. Not some accidental brush. She was holding it, swinging it, her head tilted toward him, laughing. Her other hand rested on his chest as they waited at the elevator. Jared, mid-30s, sharp haircut, no wedding ring, button-down shirt and tailored slacks. Looked comfortable, like he'd done it 1,000 times. I closed the file and just sat there. Nothing prepares you for that moment. No suspicion, no theory, no instinct compares to the feeling of confirmation. The knowing. I had proof now. Real, ugly, unforgiving proof. My first instinct was to drive to her office. Slam the printed receipts on her desk. Ask her what else she'd lied about. What other parts of our life she had quietly traded in for this other man. This parallel world. But I didn't. I stayed in the garage, staring at the oil-stained floor, holding my breath like that might somehow undo what I'd seen. Eventually, I got up, went inside, and poured a glass of water. Then I emailed everything to my attorney. I had never contacted a lawyer before, not even for traffic court, but after Carrie's stream, I'd made an appointment just in case. Her mocking laugh and the way she brushed off my grandmother's ring like it was junk had triggered something in me. A need for control. A need to protect something, myself, maybe. The attorney, Miranda Dale, was no nonsense. Her voicemail response was direct. Got the files. Let's meet Thursday. Don't say anything to her yet. So I didn't. That night, Carrie came home late. I heard her key in the door around 10:30 p.m. I was sitting in the living room with the lights off, staring at the blank TV screen. She walked in with takeout and a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. Sorry, babe. Jared's brainstorm session went over, she said, kicking off her shoes and heading for the kitchen. We're pitching to the new skincare client and I. Was it a couple's brainstorm? I asked quietly. She froze for a beat. What? Did they serve champagne and rose petals? Just wondering. She turned slowly, eyes narrowing just slightly. What's going on? I stood up, walked over, and stopped just a few feet from her. I looked at her face. The woman I'd once watched fall asleep on my chest after a road trip. The woman I had once trusted with everything. You stayed at the Bellevue Grand last month, I said, voice flat. With Jared. You had room service, lobster risotto and Pinot Noir. You checked in under Simmons. You held hands in the lobby. Her expression didn't change at first. Then came the slow blink, the tight breath, the beginning of the unraveling. I don't know what you think you saw, she said carefully. I nodded. You do, but that's fine. My attorney has it all now. A long silence followed. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She didn't deny it, not really. She just said, You've been watching me. No, I said. I've been waking up. I left the room before she could speak again. I didn't want to hear the excuses. I didn't want the script. That night, I slept in the guest room again. She didn't knock. I don't think she slept at all. When I came down in the morning, she was already gone. Later that day, Matt texted again. He's not just a coworker. I looked into him. He used to be married. Used to be? Filed for divorce last year. No kids. His ex listed infidelity in the petition. Guess who she named? I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. You can only be humiliated for so long before your instincts flip. The shock wears off, the grief settles in, and something colder takes its place. Focus. Strategy. That's where I was a few days after I got the confirmation. Carrie was cheating. The receipts said it. The photos screamed it. Her silence confirmed it. She had made her choice. Now I was making mine. What most people didn't know was that Carrie had built her career on image. The streaming, the personal brand deals, the curated behind-the-scenes hustle. It was all wrapped in the glow of credibility. What made her stand out from the sea of influencers was her real-world job. Director of brand engagement at a multinational wellness company called Vitarise. It gave her legitimacy. She wasn't just a face on a screen. She was a professional, a leader. Her audience trusted her because she wasn't just selling. She was living it. So when I found out that the live stream, the one where she mocked my grandmother's ring, was recorded in her branded home office, with her company's merchandise in full view and their logo visible in the frame, I knew exactly where to begin. I didn't move in anger. This wasn't revenge. It was accountability. I started by screen recording the stream, the whole thing from start to finish. Her vending machine comment, her fake laugh, her visible discomfort when I called her out in chat. I annotated it with timestamps, marked her references to company values and product lines, and clipped a segment where she jokingly said, "At Vitarise, we hustle hard. Unless someone's husband catches the stream, then we smile harder." It wasn't funny. Not anymore. The next step was the email. I composed it carefully, fact-based, concise. I addressed it to the Vitarise Corporate Ethics and Compliance Department using their published HR contact. I attached the video file, **TS, and a summary of confirmed personal misconduct that included misuse of company-paid accommodations, brand reputation issues, and commingling of professional resources with private indiscretions. Then I hit send. A week passed. Carrie didn't know. Not yet. She was still going through the motions, waking early, putting on her live laugh launch face, acting like we were in some slow domestic reboot. I let her. I played my part. We barely spoke. She asked if I needed anything from Whole Foods. I said no. She left her planner open on the counter. I saw notes about brand meetings, a site visit, and an upcoming quarterly presentation at Vitarise Atlanta HQ. By the following Monday, I got a reply from someone named Kevin Travers, Director of Internal Governance. It was short. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We have initiated an internal investigation. We will contact you if further information is needed." I read it 3 times, then locked my phone and went back to sanding the deck. The sun was high, the air sticky, but I felt strangely calm. Not proud, not vindicated, just steady. 2 days later, Carrie's mood shifted. She came home from work looking pale, said nothing. Her phone buzzed more than usual, screen lighting up with messages she kept face down. I noticed she didn't post anything that day. No reels, no stories, no hyper-edited productivity content. At dinner, she barely touched her food. "Everything okay?" I asked, knowing damn well it wasn't. She nodded, but the tightness in her jaw gave her away. She chewed slow, like her thoughts were racing. The next morning, she was gone before I woke up. No note, no mug in the sink, no keys left by the door. That night, she didn't come home. When I checked the house security log, I saw that she had left around 5 a.m. and hadn't returned. At 8:12 p.m, I got a text. "Staying in Atlanta tonight. Presentation went long. Back tomorrow." No "love you." No emoji. No Carrie. Except she wasn't presenting anything. She was being investigated. The next afternoon, I heard it straight from Matt. He called while I was standing in the aisle of Home Depot trying to pick out stain for the deck. "Dude," he said, "I'm in a hotel group chat and just got the weirdest ping from an old intern at Vitarise. Guess who's suspended pending a company audit?" My stomach clenched. "You're sure?" "Yeah." Word is she showed up thinking she was pitching Q3 partnerships and walked into a panel meeting with HR, compliance, and legal. Apparently they pulled her from all channels and asked her to surrender her corporate devices. I didn't speak right away. I just stared at the stain options in front of me. Golden oak, red mahogany, classic walnut, trying to breathe evenly. They said anything else? I asked eventually. Only that it's serious, Matt replied. Like internal messages, policy violations, maybe even fraud. Something about expense classification discrepancies and off-platform conduct tied to brand assets. Whatever you sent them, it hit. I hung up without saying much more. Drove home in silence. The road blurred past like it wasn't real. When I got there, Carrie's car was in the driveway. Inside, she sat at the kitchen island with a glass of wine and her laptop closed in front of her. Her hair was tied back. No makeup. Her expression was somewhere between blank and furious. "You knew," she said. I didn't answer. "You sent that stream," she added. "You sent them everything." Still, I didn't speak. I just poured myself water and leaned against the counter. "They suspended me, Jason," she said, her voice low, shaking. "Do you know what that means? Do you even realize what you've done?" "I did nothing," I said. "They did what they're supposed to do." Her eyes filled with tears, but I wasn't moved. "Not this time. We *P*nized our marriage," she whispered. "No," I said calmly. "You turned our marriage into a *P*, and the moment you made it content. I just gave the consequences back to you." We stood there in silence, the distance between us so thick it may as well have been miles. She started crying harder, but still never apologized. "Not really. No, I'm sorry. No, why did I do this?" Just fear for her image, for her job, for the empire she built on curated trust. That night, she slept on the couch. I didn't offer the guest room. I didn't check if she was okay. I closed the door to my office, locked the files I had gathered, and sent one more email to Miranda. Subject line, "Initiate." We were done. Not because she was suspended, but because I finally saw her clearly, and I didn't like the view. The night she was suspended, Carrie barely spoke. She paced the kitchen for hours, whispering into her phone, probably to her assistant, her lawyer, maybe her mother. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Everything about her posture screamed desperation. Jerky movements, clenched jaw, the way she flinched every time her phone buzzed. She never asked me to explain. She never denied what she had done. And I think deep down, she knew this wasn't just about the job. This was about everything. I slept better that night than I had in months. In the morning, while she was still asleep on the couch, makeup smeared, phone dead, hair tangled, I met with Miranda again. We sat across from each other in her office, the blinds drawn, sunlight catching the steel frames of her bookshelf. "She's officially vulnerable," I told her. "Professionally, publicly, and I want to protect everything that's mine before she tries to get clever." Miranda nodded, already flipping through a folder. "I've started drafting the divorce petition," she said. "Uncontested if she doesn't push back. But we can go to court with everything. You've built a strong case, and you're ahead of her." I leaned back in the chair and looked out the window. I'd never thought about what it would feel like to dismantle a marriage. Not just emotionally, but legally. Piece by piece. Like pulling bricks from a wall you helped build, knowing it's going to crash whether you want it to or not. "I need to start separating finances," I said. "The sooner, the better." Miranda raised an eyebrow. "How much is shared?" "Too much," I admitted. "Mortgage, credit cards, 3 accounts. She's got access to the renovation fund too, the inheritance my aunt left me. It was supposed to go toward the sunroom we never built." She tilted her head slightly. "Then we freeze it. Move what's legally yours. Retitle the trust if it's still open. Lock it down." That's exactly what I did. Over the next 72 hours, I moved fast. Faster than she expected. I transferred the renovation fund, $92,000, into a private trust under my sister's name, who had power of attorney for emergencies. I notified the bank of our pending divorce and restricted Carrie's access to joint accounts. The cards were frozen, pins reset, spending notifications turned on. I rerouted my direct deposit to a new account she didn't know existed. Even the utilities were shifted under my name. At the house, I removed all sensitive documents, passports, titles, insurance, my grandmother's estate paperwork, and locked them in a fireproof safe in my office. I backed up every piece of digital proof onto an encrypted drive. The hotel records, the stream, the audit details, even our wedding photos, just in case she tried to twist the narrative into something else. And then I did one more thing. I changed the security system. We had always used a shared code, her birthday. Easy, sentimental. I replaced it with something only I knew and disabled her biometric entry. The app access? Revoked. Entry logs? Rerouted to my phone. By the fourth day, she noticed. She came home from wherever she'd been, probably scrambling with PR teams and damage control, and the keypad blinked red. I was watching from the upstairs hallway when she tried it again. Slower this time. The system buzzed. Access denied. She pulled out her phone, confused. Tried the app. No dice. Then she rang the doorbell. I waited 10 full seconds before answering. She looked tired. She was wearing sunglasses, even though the sun had already dipped behind the trees, and holding a canvas bag that looked like it had been hastily packed. "What's going on?" she asked. "My code's not working." "I changed it," I said. "Why?" "Because this house is mine now," I said, stepping aside to let her in. "And you're not on the deed anymore." She stepped through the door slowly, like she didn't recognize the place. Same furniture, same smell of cedar and lemon cleaner. But everything had changed. "You froze the accounts," she said quietly. "I did. My card got declined." "I know. You had no right." "I had every right," I said, locking the door behind her. "Everything I did was legal, above board, and documented." She dropped the bag on the floor. It made a dull sound like toiletries, maybe a few clothes. "I'm still your wife," she said, and for the first time, there was no anger in her voice, just confusion, fear. "You can't just shut me out." I looked at her carefully. "You shut me out months ago," I said. "Every time you came home smelling like someone else. Every night you turned your phone over and said it was just work. Every hotel stay. Every lie." She said nothing, so I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a manila envelope. I held it out to her. "This is a copy of the divorce filing," I said. "Already signed. Already submitted. You'll be served officially in the next few days, but I figured you should see it first." She took the envelope but didn't open it. "You're really doing this?" she whispered. "I already did." She sat down at the table, slowly, like her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. For a minute, she just stared at the envelope, running her fingers over the fold. "I was going to fix it," she said finally. "I was going to explain everything. I just needed time." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insulting. Time for what? For Jared to ghost you? For Vitorize to drop you? For your followers to forget? Her mouth opened, then closed again. She didn't deny any of it. "I messed up," she said. "I know I did, but do you really think it has to be this final?" "Yeah," I said. "I do." She looked around like she was expecting the house to come alive and start fighting for her. But the home she built online, curated, polished, perfect, wasn't here. It never was. "You don't have to do this to punish me," she said. "You've already won." "This isn't about winning," I said. "This is about freedom. From the lies. From the PR version of you. From pretending we're something we're not." She stood, shaky, and walked to the stairs. "Where are you going?" I asked. "To pack," she said, voice hollow. "Don't take anything that isn't yours." She paused halfway up, then kept going. I stayed downstairs. I didn't want to watch her take her life apart. I didn't need to see the tears or hear her phone calls. I knew what this moment felt like. For her. For me. And I wasn't going to flinch this time. An hour later, she came down with a suitcase and the canvas bag. She avoided my eyes. "I'll get the rest later," she said. "Just send a list." "I will." At the door, she turned one last time. Is there really no part of you that wants to try? I looked at her, really looked, and then I said, I tried. Every day you stopped. She left without another word. When the door clicked shut behind her, I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I didn't even sit down. I just stood there in the quiet, alone but not broken. I hadn't just survived her betrayal. I had reclaimed myself from it.